Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So we have some new games for the NES and Super NES added to the Switch Online service, as well as a minor update to Nintendo Switch Sports. We have those topics and more to cover, but before we get started, if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't yet, consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell so we can keep you up to date with all the latest gaming news. Now let's get started. First, late on Thursday night last week, Nintendo made an announcement of some more games coming to the Nintendo Switch Online service. 3 classic Super NES and NES titles are now live for Nintendo Switch Online members, and we'll go through each of these. First, we have Kirby's Avalanche. Now, this is a puzzle game that was released in 1995 for the Super Nintendo, and this was not released in Japan because it's just basically a reskin of Super Pua Pua. Interestingly enough, these games also got released in Japan, so the Japanese are getting their first access to this version of the game. And then we also had Fighter's History, which is a fighting game produced by Data East. Now, this is the Super Nintendo version. It was released in 1994. And the unique feature of this game was that each player had a weak point, and if you strike that weak point, you can stun your opponent once per round. Now, if you think this looks really close to Street Fighter II, then you think like Capcom, who actually sued Data East in Japan back when this was released. However, Capcom did lose the case because, well, Fighter's History is a fighting game and Capcom doesn't own the genre. Then we have Daiva Story 6, which I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. And this is what they called an action simulation war game, and it was developed by Toshiba EMI back in 1986. Now, this was originally a computer game that was simplified for younger audiences on the Famicom, and it wasn't exclusive in Japan, and Nintendo even gives you a cheat to start the game with using the Japanese characters. But this seems to be a run and gun style game, and it seems like you have an overworld where you travel to different planets. But something interesting to try out considering we never got it originally released here in the States. Next, we have a slight update for Nintendo Switch Sports. We have the announcement here from Nintendo of America. Get a kick out of this on July 26th, which is tomorrow. A free update for Nintendo Switch Sports adds new features like the ability to use the leg strap accessory in 4-on-4 and 1-on-1 soccer matches, new volleyball moves, and more. Now, this update will also add new S and Infinite ranks to the Online Pro League. And these updates to me just seem kind of minor, like maybe they should have been in the game when it was released. Now, there's going to be a second free update later this year, which is going to add golf to the list of the sports. And I do believe Nintendo's strategy here is just to continue to add sports to this and little updates in order to keep it in the news and sort of make this an evergreen title where people continue to buy it as they see these updates come out. And we have some information that's leaking out about Hogwarts Legacy, and this has to do with the different versions that you'll be able to buy. We have this headline here from VGC: Hogwarts Legacy Collector's Edition's contents appear online. Now, there were hidden files on the Hogwarts Legacy website that were spotted by a user on Reddit. Now, these appear to show what is included in the collector's and deluxe versions of the game. Now, we have different cosmetics that are included in these box sets, and we don't know yet if these are exclusive to the sets or just unlocked from the start. Now, at the bottom of the list on the collector's edition, you have a steel case and a floating ancient magic wand book. Now, since the steel case is a physical item, I'm guessing that this floating ancient magic wand may also be, considering it's coming in after the steel case. Now, the game is still scheduled to release sometime this year after it was delayed from last year, and I'm guessing probably in the November or early December timeframe in order to get it in for the holiday season. And our next story sort of developed toward the end of last week, and it has to do with some leak footage from The Last of Us Part 1, which is a version that's being developed for the PS5. Now, I hesitate to call it a remake because that's part of what the controversy is. So most of the controversy focused around how the game had no gameplay improvements. Well, coming in late Thursday night, PlayStation Blog decided they would release an article that says how Naughty Dog rebuilt The Last of Us Part 1. And they also had a video that accompanied the blog, and they highlighted things like the graphical improvements and how the DualSense controller would add things like a varied resistance to the trigger as you pulled like a bow and arrow back. They also highlighted AI changes and how bullets can now rip apart concrete and environmental objects. And then they highlighted a new permadeath mode as well as a speedrun focus mode. And then also there'll be new unlockable costumes. But probably the biggest improvement is a slew of accessibility options, one of which includes a narration. Now the game is scheduled to come out September 2nd, and looking at this footage, it looks really good as far as the graphics go, but I think a lot of people were disappointed that there wasn't a change in the combat. I think a lot of people were thinking they might switch to a newer form of combat closer to what was in Last of Us Part 2. And then a lot of people wonder, why am I paying $70 for this game when it's basically the same game with just improved graphics? So obviously this blog and video were a response to this backlash, and I'm assuming they had this video pretty much ready to go, but they probably released it earlier to kind of deal with the backlash. But considering the original release of The Last of Us for the PS3 came out over 9 years ago, do you think it's too much to ask full price for what is essentially a HD version? We have another game that seems to be confirmed through a leak in Discord. We have this headline here from VGC. Monster Hunter Paradise appears to have leaked via Discord. Monster Hunter 6 also appeared in the Capcom leak last year. Now, if you remember, there was a massive Capcom leak back in November of 2020 that was the result of a ransomware attack. But it looks like a savvy user figured out through Discord the name of this Monster Hunter game that was just Monster Hunter 6 in this Capcom leak. In a now deleted tweet, user Neonaga99 pointed out that by experimenting with Discord's backend while using the developer mode build of the platform, it was possible to activate some placeholder events scheduled for later in the year. While these were mostly blank, one of them invited players to claim a code for Monster Hunter Paradise, seemingly confirming the title of the next game in the series. Now, trying to redeem this code didn't actually do anything, but it does seem to offer a code for an Xbox, PlayStation, or PC version, which seemingly confirms which platforms Monster Hunter Paradise is going to be released for. So this definitely seems like this is going to be a higher-end graphical game compared to Monster Hunter Rise and the DLC Sunbreak that we had for the Switch, considering it seems like the Switch has been left out. Now, we don't have any dates or timelines that indicate when this is going to get released, and I still wonder if this Monster Hunter Paradise could just still be a code name. But if you're a fan of the Monster Hunter series, it looks like you've got another game to look forward to. And that's all we have for today. Did anything we cover catch your attention? Have you played any of the games that are coming to Nintendo Switch Online, and do you have any recommendations? And do you have any guesses how much these different box sets of Hogwarts Legacy are going to cost? Let me know what you think about those topics or anything else we covered today. I want to thank you for watching, and be good.